What is up, guys? So today's tier list will be looking at all of the speedsters in the Arrowverse, putting each of them into the tier that I think they deserve to be in, and in the end, rearranging it to more accurately represent my actual opinion and ranking for all of these speedsters. That was a huge disclaimer. I really don't want to see any comments about this in the comments, like how I arranged it inaccurately or incorrectly. This is not about speed at all. It's not about who's the fastest and who's the slowest. It's really just my opinion about these characters, how much I like them. The closer they are to S, the more I like them. The closer they are to F, the less I like them. So I really don't want to see any comments about that, and I really hope there's no confusion in that regard. With that in mind, also I want to point out that I'm not including any speedsters who are only speedsters because they stole powers from other people, like Music Meister or Amazo. They're not really counted as speedsters, but I am including characters who are only speedsters temporarily, like Oliver Queen in Elseworlds, Iris West in Season 4, Episode 16, as well as Trajectory. So with all of that in mind, let's start this tier list, starting with Barry Allen, aka The Flash. Barry Allen is obviously the main character of the show that almost all of these speedsters are from. He's a great character development, definitely the best live-action portrayal of this character out of the three, and one of the other versions is actually in this tier list as well. I think that he's definitely a great character, and I would say one of the only characters who is going to be in the S tier in this list. I think he's probably also the fastest, which if this was based off speed, he would be in the top as well, but again, it's not. It's based on my opinion. I think he's a great character, one of the best characters in the entirety of the Arrowverse, who definitely deserves to be in the S tier of this video. So moving on to the Reverse Flash, Barry Allen's main rival. He is almost kind of equal to Barry Allen in terms of how good of a character he is. His role over the course of Season 1 and the rest of the seasons of The Flash, and even Legends of Tomorrow Season 2, he's just a great villain overall. He's definitely the best villain in the entirety of the Arrowverse, and his rivalry with Barry Allen is great. Because of that, he also deserves to be in the S tier, but looking at the rest of the characters, I don't think there will be any more S tier characters in this tier list, but we will see. Moving on to Jesse Wells, aka Jesse Quick, who honestly I like a lot more ever since episode 15 of Season 4, Enter Flash Time. I thought before that, although her costume is awesome, I thought the actress wasn't very good for some reason, but then actually in episode 15 of Season 4, Enter Flash Time, she was great. I think the actress did a great job in that role, like with the thing with her, with Harry Wells in that episode. It was so good, and I don't know why she just upped her game completely. I would have put her probably in the C tier before that episode, but because of that, although we haven't seen her since, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, we haven't seen her since. Still, though, she got up to the B tier because of that, which I know doesn't sound very good, but B tier is definitely a very solid tier to be in for this tier list. Moving on to the next character, which is kind of technically Barry Allen, but Oliver Queen, aka The Flash, who was The Flash for 2 episodes of Elseworlds Part 1 and 2, and I think really should have been also for Part 3, at least a little bit. It would have made it a little bit more entertaining, and maybe a little bit more on par with the first 2 parts. Anyway, this character, he was really good. Obviously, this doesn't count like Oliver Queen as a whole, only when he was a speedster for those 2 episodes, and similarly for Iris West, it will only count the 1 episode that she was a speedster, but for Oliver Queen, the 2 episodes he was a speedster, it was so entertaining. This body swap between Oliver and Barry, the way they kind of changed their personalities, where Oliver became more lighthearted and Barry became more dark, and the kind of back and forth between the two, it was just so entertaining watching like Oliver struggle with his speed. Because of that, although he only appeared for 2 episodes and he's barely a character, he's a very temporary speedster, still though he will go into the B tier. So then we have the rival, who was also only in 2 episodes, although he's definitely more of an actual character as a speedster. He was in the first episode of Flashpoint, which is the only episode of Flashpoint, and he was in, I think, the next episode where he returned to being the rival. For one, I really like his costume, which I didn't mention this, but the actual costumes are kind of a part of this tier list because they kind of shape a little bit of my opinion about these characters. Typically, if a costume's good, then the character, I probably will like them a lot more. I do really like the rival's costume in general. Other than that, though, he's a very generic villain, a very generic character who shouldn't really be generic because in the comics he has this. He's just like the Reverse Flash for Jay Garrick. They could have done something there where he's from Earth 3 and maybe Barry has to help Jay Garrick stop him. Because of that, I think they kind of wasted this character just a little bit. So I would put the rival probably in the C tier, but I definitely think he's not a terrible character at all. So here we have Barry Allen, aka The Flash from Earth 90, who appeared in every episode of The Flash from the 90s, Season 1, as well as Elseworlds Part 2, and also the end credits scene of the episodes before Elseworlds. Now this is a little weird because I haven't seen The Flash Season 1. It's very dated, it's barely watchable at all, so I haven't seen it, so my opinion here is kind of, it doesn't really count 100% because I haven't seen this character all that often, but from what I've seen, he definitely feels like very similar to Jay Garrick. The actor is the same actor, so that makes sense. I do really like his costume, even though it's from the 90s. It's definitely an updated version of that costume. For some reason, I really do like it. Other than that, and I do like his role in Elseworlds as well. Other than that, there's nothing really there, so I would put this character in the C tier. But if I watched The Flash from 90s Season 1, or the first season, only season, and he appeared more often, he probably would and could go up to the B tier, or maybe even higher, although higher than that I doubt it. Anyway, now we have Wally West, aka Kid Flash, who should be higher than he's going to be because of the fact that, I mean, he hasn't been used enough. He was great on in Legends of Tomorrow Season 3, and I did like him in general in The Flash Season 3 and The Flash Season 2, but yeah, he just hasn't been used enough on The Flash at all. He's definitely not as good a character as Wally West is typically. Like, I think Wally West is equal to Barry Allen in terms of how good they are in the comics, as well as the fact that Wally West was The Flash from when I was a kid in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, so he was The Flash. He was my favorite version of Flash, but this version doesn't feel like he's nearly as good as a character as Barry Allen, and he just hasn't been used enough. Still, though, I think he's definitely a pretty great character who probably deserves to be in the B tier. So here we have Hunter Zolomon, aka Zoom, and I should probably mention that I am including Zoom and Black Flash as two different characters, even though they are technically the same character, because even though they are the same character, they're very, very different, and they kind of feel like different characters. I feel like Zoom died in the Season 2 finale, and then Black Flash was created because of that. Anyway, Zoom, aka Hunter Zolomon, is a very, very scary villain, definitely the most menacing villain in the entirety of the Arrowverse. He's one of the best villains as well. I would say the second best villain on the Flash after the Reverse Flash. Very menacing villain with a great rivalry with Barry Allen, and just a great character in general who would be in the A tier. So then we have Jay Garrick, aka The Flash from Earth 3, who I think is definitely a very good character. He hasn't really appeared very much, but when he does, it's definitely very fun to see him team up with Barry Allen. I think the reveal at the end of Season 2 was done very, very well, and how that connected to Barry saving his mom, and that was through Jay Garrick, obviously. They did a lot of things very well with this character. I really like his costume, so I don't think he deserves to be in the A tier, but I definitely would put him in the B tier. If he appeared more often, similarly to Wally West and maybe even Jesse Quick, they could possibly be up to the A tier. But for now, looking at the rest of the list, it's really only going to be Zoom in the A tier. Anyway, moving on to Iris West, who actually doesn't have a superhero name. She never got one. Maybe I guess she's the first XS, as she does have the same costume without the logo. Anyway, this episode, which came after my favorite episode of The Flash ever, was not very good. Run Iris 1, run where Barry and Iris kind of switched abilities, where Barry got no abilities and Iris got the Speed Force connection and the Speedster powers. This was not a very good episode. It was a very gimmicky episode. Iris was not a very interesting speedster at all. I didn't hate the episode as much as most people do. I didn't hate this version. I didn't hate the idea of Iris getting speedster powers for an episode as much as most people, but I have to agree that it's definitely not a very good episode, and Iris is definitely not a very good character in it. I don't think it will go in the F tier, but I definitely would put her in the D tier, as it was not a good episode and she was not a good character in it. Anyway, moving on to Blitzkrieg, I'm pretty sure his name is, who doesn't have an alter ego, but I guess we could call him the Barry Allen of Earth X. He didn't appear in Crisis on Earth X, which I really think he should have. I think the Reverse Flash is probably the worst he's ever been in that episode, in that crossover. It was the first time and the only time he's ever been a not great character. I didn't like what they did with him there. It didn't really fit the character very well at all. It was kind of a waste, and also the writing for the character was very bad. Anyway, I think that they really should have used Blitzkrieg, which is unfortunate for the character for this tier list, because he was only ever in Freedom Fighters of the Ray, which is probably, honestly, the worst DC show I've ever seen. I did a tier list for that, for the DC TV shows. If you want to check it out, link will be in the top right corner of the video, but I'm pretty sure I put the Freedom Fighters of the Ray literally in F tier all the way at the bottom, and this character is from there. He was basically a no-line character. He was just there to be there. If he would appear in Crisis on Earth X, he would have been a lot higher, maybe even in B tier, because he could have been a good villain, but since he's in Freedom Fighters of the Ray and he wasn't, I would put him in the F tier. So then we have Godspeed, who could have been such a great character. They kind of messed him up by putting him in the future, and the actor they cast for the role and the writing and the portrayal of the character, literally they did nothing right except for the costume, which is going to bump him up a little bit, maybe into the C tier instead of the D tier. The character in general is not good at all, but it's the costume itself that is going to make Godspeed not a D tier character, which is a bummer because I remember being so excited to see this character on the show, to see what they would do with him, maybe even make him a main villain, at least a recurring villain, or maybe even an anti-hero / member of Team Flash for a little bit, but they didn't really do any of that. They ruined the character. They could definitely bring him back because of some timeline changes, but for now, this version of him from 2049, 2045 or something, he is going to be in the C tier. Speaking of the future, we have Nora Allen, aka XS, who only appeared in the Flash season. Actually, no, she appeared in season 4 with a couple cameos, but she was only ever a character in season 5, really. She started off very well. I really liked her in the first episode, and then the first couple episodes of the season. I also really liked the conflict between her and Barry later in the season, but that's not really her. It's really Barry and the acting for Grant Gustin, as well as Eobard Thawne as a character and their rivalry. XS was just kind of a plot device in that whole conflict, which is why whenever I think about that conflict, I don't really think about her. I think more about Barry Allen and Eobard Thawne, even though she was a part of it. I know a lot of people don't like this character at all. I don't dislike her. I just think that also the actress, not very good. I just think that she ended up being a average to mediocre character in the Flash, so I would put her in the C tier. I was gonna say S. Well, I don't know, a C tier. Anyway, here we have Sabot, aka Barry Allen, the time-remnant version, who was definitely not a bad villain at all. He definitely is not as good as the first two Speedster villains at all, and every time they made a Speedster villain, it seems like they got worse and worse every time. Not by much. I mean, Zoom's barely worse than Reverse Flash in Season 1, and Sabot is still definitely a good villain with the best main villain costume ever, but still, I don't think it deserves to be any higher than the B tier. So then we have the Accelerator Man from Earth 19. He doesn't have an alter ego. He actually doesn't have an alter ego in the comics either. But this is the character that I feel like he only has ever had cameos. I think he did have a line once, and I would like to see more of him as he kind of looks cool. It's probably one of the most comic book accurate costumes of all time. And the universe he's in is definitely very interesting. It's the Batman Gotham by Gaslight universe. I don't love that universe at all, but they definitely can do something there. But he literally has only ever been used in cameos, and whenever he returns, he just barely does. Because of all those things, I would definitely put him maybe in the D, I would put him in the F tier. He's barely a character. If he appeared more, if he got his own storyline or episode or lines or actor or a name or anything, I could put him higher. Maybe he could be a good character, but for now, he is not. Then we have Trajectory, aka Eliza Harmon, who was a one-off Speedster villain in Season 2, I think like episode 12 or 13 or something. Honestly, I have no idea. She was a pretty cool villain. I mean, she was definitely a little bit more interesting than most villains of the week because she was a Speedster, and she added that aspect to it, and she connected to the season-long storyline just a little bit with the V9 that she used. But she definitely wasn't a great villain at all. She definitely was a character who I would say that she should ever come back as a villain. She was just a little bit more interesting than most because because of her powers. And also, I do like her costume, which they repurposed for Jesse Quick. They probably just created the costume for Jesse Quick, but also they wanted to use it on another character or whatever. I don't know. But still, definitely not a great character at all. So I'd put her in the D tier. So fittingly, we're ending this tier list with the physical embodiment of death in the Speed Force, because death is the end of everything. We have the Black Flash, who is, again, technically also Zoom, but I feel like he's just the deceased corpse of Zoom, the corpse of Zoom, who's being used as a puppet by the Speed Force. I just really like the concept of this character. I really wish they used him more. They haven't used him since The Flash Season 3, where I guess he was destroyed by Killer Frost. Either way, I think they should bring him back. He's a very interesting character with a very interesting concept. You can technically really have his own storyline for a couple episodes. They definitely can do that. Maybe not as a main villain, but for a couple episodes where he is the main antagonist, where they kind of did something similar with Legends of Tomorrow, where he in Season 2, where he was the driving force behind the main plot line of that season. Because of that, I do really like this character. I really want them to use him more, and I would put him in the B tier. Alright, so after rearranging the tier list, this is my official ranking for all the speedsters in the Arrowverse, all 17 speedsters. We have, in the F tier, the worst speedster is Blitzkrieg, mostly because he's barely a character. Similarly, we have Accelerator Man, who's basically tied for last place, but he's just a little bit better, because he has this level of intrigue about him that I'm definitely very interested in. In the D tier, we have a Trajectory, as well as Iris West. In the C tier, we have the Rival, Godspeed, Earth 90 Flash, as well as XS. In the B tier, we have Black Flash, the Flash, aka Oliver Queen, Jesse Quick, Sabotar, Jay Garrick, as well as Kid Flash. In the A tier, we have Zoom, and in the S tier, definitely by far the best speedsters in the Arrowverse, tied for first place. Barry Allen's just a little bit higher, but still they're basically tied. We have Eobard Thawne, aka the Reverse Flash, and Barry Allen, aka the Flash. Let me know your tier list in the comments down below, and what do you think of mine, and what would you change about all of it? Do you think I should do something similar with Arrow, like maybe with the Archers of Arrow? And also, give me just more suggestions in the comments down below for tier lists that you think I should do, as well as maybe just other top 10 lists or rankings. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.